girlfriends. This episode has been on my heart to record for a while, and I've put it off. I've wanted to do it when it felt more, seasonally appropriate, which doesn't necessarily make sense and does make sense if you follow when Mental Health Awareness Month or week is, or even just to kind of coincide with the anniversary of when my own father passed. But this week, as I was on my daily vitamin D intake walk, I just had this inkling that I needed to sit down and record this. It was this quiet whisper. It's something I find is a regular part of my everyday life, and even more so recently as I've been making time to get quiet. But I had this inkling that I needed to sit down and record this for you. And then I got on the blog, I looked at the back end numbers, and this post will trend every now and again. This episode is going to be an extension of a blog post that I've already written, so there are some things that I'm probably not going to cover now, but will be available in the blog post, so I will link that as the show notes for today if you want to kind of dive into it, because you can see maybe some things that I shared initially whenever I finally felt ready to kind of address and acknowledge more so with my platform that I had lost a parent to suicide. But I noticed that this particular post was trending, and that just kind of reaffirmed it for me. So we're sitting down to talk about it today. But if this is your first episode with me, if you have not joined the WSS community, my name is Savannah. I am the Savvy behind What Savvy Said. And there's a lot that I could tell you guys today. There's a lot that I could kind of sit here and talk with you about. And I'm happy to always do a follow-up episode if there are questions that you guys have, if there are things that you want to know. I can't imagine that you're necessarily in a place to ask questions yet. I wasn't. But today I really want to just chat as though I'm sitting across from you, and it's somebody who can kind of guide you through this season of your life and what that looks like. Now, growing up for me, I really had no idea that a mental health situation was going on in my household. I was very much an artistic kid. I was somebody who was really trying to find my own place in the world and just kind of learning, the boundaries of whether or not I was introverted or extroverted, and just trying to find me and what that looks like. I didn't have any idea that I was super intuitive and that I was really responsive to other people's energy. But I did grow up with a father that had more than one health scare over the years. It wasn't uncommon for me to be put in a situation where I thought, okay, well, maybe he's not going to make it out of this. That was a very realistic aspect of my life from the age of 6 on. And so when I was a teenager, there was some kind of incident with medicines, and I don't know, whether or not that was an intentional situation. But for me, and there were a few more scares over the years, but for me, I really never had any idea that having some kind of mental situation going on was something that my father struggled with. I knew that there was alcohol going on, but that honestly wasn't something that was insane. It wasn't some kind of alcohol abuse that I ever noticed. I think it was one of those times where it was kind of more of a side of the depression and it flowed with it. And so I had no idea. And my parents separated when I was young, and they did a fairly good job of really never speaking poorly about one another, which was something that I really benefited from, and I'm so incredibly thankful for, because I could hold my parents in a high regard, and I kind of got to live a little bit more of the idyllic childhoodness than I might have otherwise. A lot of it was robbed just because of certain situations in my life that I'm sure we will talk about later in other episodes throughout other things. But I didn't have a lot of inclination that this was a thing. And so when my father passed, I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of things that nobody ever bothered to tell me. And I remember thinking in that time, in that week, because in my instance, it was a case of we had a scare and I was put in a position to potentially intervene, but everybody around me was saying all of these different things, and I had no idea what I needed to do. And everybody who had outside knowledge, stronger than me, of knowing this experience wasn't telling me any different. And that was something I kind of had to reconcile, was once we got to a situation where my father had passed by his own hand, I had to kind of look at it and think, okay, I can sit here in this moment and I can, step one in this grieving process that you're in, you can start to blame yourself. And at that point, my thought was, I can't do that. Like, that is not a burden I can take on myself right now. Because at any point in time, if somebody wants to hurt themselves, they're going to do it regardless of your intervention. Like, they are going to find a way. You can do everything you can, and they can get help. I canceled my father's psychiatrist appointment. Like, that was a thing that I had to do as a part of the process. And going through that time, I really had to go through the phases of it, because sitting in that moment, there was nobody who could give me any kind of anything. Like, you hear I'm sorry a lot. You will never hear I'm sorry more than you will when like somebody passes away, because nobody knows what to say. And it's really, I have no words for you right now. This sucks. If you need somebody to sit with you while you stare into space because you have no words right now, I'm your girl. Like, that is pretty much the best that anybody can do for you right now, and that's fine. You kind of have to find your own way. I watched a lot of Reba. I watched a lot of funny stuff. I found that I wasn't necessarily more sensitive to certain things, but I found that things definitely took on a different meaning for me. It was maybe a month after 13 Reasons Why had come out, and of course that sparks like a whole other conversation. But in those moments, in that, like, in the week, in the months, in the time afterwards, I realized that grieving in this particular instance is a different process than it is when you're grieving something else. And for me, especially in this particular situation, I lived in Atlanta. I didn't see my dad a lot. So there wasn't that like everyday, like regular kind of, interaction in your life. It's the like getting in the car for the long road trip and you're like, oh, I should call and check in on 08. Like those kind of things, the cues that you don't realize that are built into your life were there. But step one of this process for me, and I would imagine it is true for a lot of people, is just kind of reconciling who and what you know. A lot of that initial process is kind of second guessing things. Is, did you miss stuff? Did you really know this person? What were you missing? And in every single moment of that, when you start to kind of take on the burden of it, the best gift that you can give yourself is to remind yourself that they're at peace. Like, they are no longer suffering under the weight of this, trying to find a breath, like not feeling smothered constantly. They are at peace. And I mean, I talked about depression. I will be talking about depression more in upcoming content, and it's definitely something we chat about with like in-depthness, but also lightheartedness here, because I really want this to be a space where you kind of feel like you can take a big breath. But in that process of being so underneath it, I think that people want to say, well, get help or ask for help or do whatever. And for some people, when you're depressed, so much of that process is convincing yourself that you're perfectly fine. Like, you aren't in a place to even acknowledge that you need help. And there's some people who they just can't convince themselves anymore. They've been trying to fight this for so long, and their demons are so heavy, and they've just found no way around it. And you have to start to kind of forgive yourself and forgive them, and just realize that right now you can let go. Like, you can let go of the fact that they are no longer here. And then you have to kind of acknowledge the fact that it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Like, this is not a sign of whether or not you are a good or bad person, or your faults and how you showed up in the world. I was lucky enough to not have to go through a lot of my father's things. I really did not want to have to go in the trailer. I was very thankful to have family that kind of helped with that whole process. But even in the like stuff that we found, like my father had written his pin down for his debit card for me. Like, he left me everything that he could that would make it so much easier for me. I never doubted that. Like, that was never a thing for me. So I have to think, And I have to remind you that like this isn't the time where they're doing this because they didn't love you. This has nothing to do with you. They might have loved you more than life themselves, but they could not fight any longer. And I remember my grandfather saying like just how much like my father loved me, and that was something I never doubted. So as you're trying to take those first steps before you can even begin grieving, while you're reconciling who you thought you knew and what you thought you know, and just the entire situation of it all, remind yourself to take a deep breath. Remind yourself that right now in this moment, it's going to take a while for you to kind of process it. And unfortunately, we can't change it. Like, we can choose to do better. We can choose to listen. We can choose to see the signs. We can choose to be more proactive in other ways. But we can't take back what we didn't know. We can't re-educate ourselves to go in the past. And we can only move forward from this space. So give yourself permission to practice grace with yourself, and just acknowledging that like you weren't left behind because they didn't love you. It's because they could no longer fight. And once you can kind of reconcile that step, you can start grieving, and you can start going through the process of saying, okay, I'm really walking through all of these steps. I'm angry. I'm happy. I'm completely in denial. Like, I think the first step of being in denial and reconciling, they all kind of go in the phase of it. Because I think in the first few weeks, being able to give yourself the space of denial, or at least just not fully living in it, can be really helpful, in the sense that you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people who don't know what the hell to do with you. And they don't know how to help you, and they don't know what to say, and they might say all the wrong things. And personally, I'm of the belief, like, I hate funerals. Guys, there's nothing. I went to 3 in the span of when my dad passed, one of my friends' dads passed, and then my uncle passed like 3 months later. And it felt like a wash and repeat situation. Like that, there's nothing about that time that ever seems to be more than just an occasion to put people in a space. Like, I've never been to a celebratory one. If you have, that's amazing. But a lot of it just literally getting through all of the stuff, sorting out all of the things, helping everybody get from point A to point B, and kind of giving yourself the grace so that in a month, when people disappear, that you can start grieving. And I think that's when the process really begins. I'm not somebody personally who tries to live in my emotions for a really long amount of time. I find that for my own mental health and just for my own balance, I try to give myself the time and the energy. Like, I will be like, all right, we can sit in this for this amount of time and try to move past it, and then we can go on. And I do that in little spurts, and I find it's a lot better than falling in a hole and having to dig myself out. But when you lose a parent like this, it's not like you have the opportunity to say goodbye. It's not like cancer. It's not like you're having a car accident. It's not like I think those things you can't blame this person. You can't blame that person. You're stuck kind of in the middle of figuring out, okay, I have no one to blame. I could choose to blame myself, but that's not going to serve anything. So how do I reconcile this situation right now? Like, how do I make peace with it? How do I find all of the joys that this person in my life had, and how do I celebrate them? And how do I acknowledge all of the beautiful moments that they had and all of the things that did bring them joy in their life? And then how do I honor them? How do I move forward? How do I live my life in a way that would make them proud? And you kind of have to take those steps from there. But I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give anybody who's in the situation right now, whether you're a day into it, you're a week into it, you're 6 months into it, until you give yourself permission to get out of that state of reconciling who they were and what you knew, and forgive yourself for whatever role you feel as though you played in the process, until you can get out of that, you're never going to move forward with the grief process. And that's the biggest thing. So I wish that I could sit down and have coffee with all of you. I like I said, I don't know that I would make this episode a million years long, guys, because I don't know that I can tell you anything other than right now is going to suck. Like, this season is going to be very weird. Nobody's going to know what to tell you. They're all going to try to want to tell you things, and they have no idea. And if you're a friend of somebody who's lost a parent to suicide, the best thing that you can do for your friend right now is literally just be with them, sit with them, help them to make sure that they're not blaming themselves, help them to process the things, help them to tell the joyful stories about their parent, help them to live in remembering the things that make them happy about remembering this person. Watch the comedies with them. If they want to watch the scary movies, watch those with them. Just let them have the space to kind of be numb, be there, go through it. And on the other side of it, things will get a little bit more normal and you won't want to sit in that anymore, and you'll start to feel as though it's not weird that you're just sitting at a table when your life has completely changed. Like it's a balance, and it's okay right now if you're in a place where you can't live in that normal. Like you feel really weird about the fact that you're sitting at dinner and nobody else has had their whole life shift. Give yourself that space and time, but try to make sure that you're aware of how long you give yourself so that you don't stay in that space forever. And if you're the friend, don't be afraid to intervene and just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit with you. Like that's what you need right now. That's all I can offer. I don't think anybody can offer you anything else. I'm literally just gonna sit with you. Now, I do want to end this episode on a slightly more positive note, because I don't ever try to leave you guys in that space where you're energetically just like, okay, cool, I'm down. Like, this is where we're leaving the day. I am creating more content right now and I'm really excited about it. And a lot of that's going to be on YouTube, on Instagram. We'll see how it goes. I'm really just trying to kind of pay attention to the energy of what feels appropriate. But if you are in need of a space and you want to hang out with, just being real and growing and healing and feeling safe and moving forward with your life, and maybe you're not in a place right now where that reflects in your friend group, maybe you need a little bit more solitude or a little bit more controlled energy, come hang out with us on YouTube. I would love to have you as a part of our community there. Love to have you on all of the places. We are on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we have the blog, all of the things. I definitely know that there's some more stuff that I went into on the blog about this specific topic. So again, I will link that in the show notes for you. And because I'm a big believer in practicing gratitude, I think that that's a huge part of just being able to mentally click back into a good state. I think we're going to end the episode with that, because guys, it's the foundation of everything, of how I manifest things, of how I shift my life, of how I really just am able to live in a more positive space most of the time. Gratitude is everything. So first thing that I am super thankful for is money mentality makeover. Guys, I know that like letters, but I always want to say this wrong. So I've been following Amanda Frances for, I feel like forever now. It's not forever, but I recently signed up for the course, and I will talk all about how I manifested that next week. But I've been going through it, and for me, one of my favorite things about the course, because I will be doing a review on this later, is that it's not just about money, at least in the way that I'm experiencing it, because I've really felt the need to just kind of dig into my own life and to make those shifts and to have that space and to really heal internally. And I needed some stuff to help me do that. And so in this course, these women, all of the women who are in the Facebook group, just kind of being a part of it has been so helpful in this season for me. I have definitely come out of what I would like to call more of a funk, maybe a bit of a depressive episode. I don't know that I want to claim that necessarily, but it's definitely not been my best space. And I will be talking about that more on YouTube soon. But like coming out of that and healing right now, and just having this space as a part of my day, having this content as a part of my day, really giving myself the time to just heal and to be like, you know what, I've done these things for a really long time, and in whatever capacity I've done them, and they don't work for me. Like it's fine that it works for everybody else. It doesn't work for me. So we're not going to do it anymore. Like that, it's a gift just to be able to say that out loud. But I've really been enjoying her course. Now, I believe she only opens it maybe once or twice a year, maybe twice a year. I think it's only gotten open. It was only open once this year. I don't know that she's going to open it again before the end of the year, but you never know. But she does have Drop the Motherfucking Money Struggle available right now. So I will link that in the description of this episode. if you guys want to check that out, because that's definitely been big for me. The second thing on my gratitude list is my daily walk. I've really been trying to get my movement back up. I definitely put on some depression weight, and I'm not somebody who's like, I have to lose all the weight right now, but I don't feel my best. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not really happy with it. So the easiest way for me to do that is to just up my steps, to have a workout that I love. I'm starting a new workout plan because I've really, like, with the pandemic and everything else, I've kind of gotten out of the rhythm of doing my weight plans, and I keep wanting to go back to like the ones that I've done, and I feel like I die after the first day. So I'm starting a new plan, but I'm loving my daily walks. It's finally sunshiny here. I like that I can get some natural vitamin D, and it's just really kind of pouring into my energy. Because the other thing that I'm realizing in this season is it's very, very important for me to have quiet time. Like, I need more quiet time than I thought. I went through a phase of having things on all the time, watching things all of the time, kind of always having something entertaining. When I would take a break for things, I would watch YouTube. I would have all of those things. And now, especially in the season of healing, I'm realizing how important it is for me to protect my own energy. And sometimes that's with just ocean sounds or really quiet space. Like, I'm so precious about my energy right now, especially while I'm healing, but even more so as I'm really looking to manifest and shift some big things in my life. So my daily walks are a huge part of that. That is where this podcast came from. It's just giving myself the time to intentionally spend with people who really fill my cup, whether or not that's like a podcast from Amy Landino. I think I'm going to listen to the Drama Queens podcast today. It really depends on the day. But like, even sometimes it's just listening to music or nothing. Like, having that quiet time and my vitamin D walks, those are major. And the third thing on my gratitude list, and the final thing for the day, is taking a break from alcohol. I did an episode, I think 2 episodes back, kind of talking about my relationship with it. And if I'm completely honest, like, as my body functions, especially healing my hormones naturally and kind of coming on the other side of that, I definitely learned how my body thrives and how my body's like, yeah, no, we don't play that game. And I do not do well with sugar. Anything that my body processes as more on the sugary end. So like, if I had like bread and wine at night, it's not gonna play. What happens is about 6 hours after my body completely like digests and like burn through it, I will wake up like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. like clockwork, and I'm up. Like, my body's like, no, this doesn't work for me. So I know that physically it just doesn't really vibe for me. It doesn't feel like something that's authentic to me, but I also just find that it doesn't really serve best for my mental space. So I'm not ready to say that I'm never, ever, ever going to drink again, because I don't want to put that kind of pressure on it. Like, we're planning a trip to France next year, and there's potential that I might want to do a little bit of champagne tasting, but I might be at the point where the champagne tastes like rubbing alcohol. So I'm just trying to put it in that same category of, I'm not really feeling it. It doesn't really serve me. I'm quite okay with it having an extended break. And unless there's some reason that like it's the only thing that I'm craving in a moment, a lot of times it probably means I'm craving something else. I can't imagine myself being in that position. So I'm really grateful to give myself a break. If you guys are really struggling with your mental health right now and you're kind of in that place, I know a lot of us are really in a season of transition right now. And we kind of gave ourselves a lot of grace, made excuses, lived in a space of just kind of trying to survive the last year. And now that last bit of grace has kind of gotten us to the point where we're like, all right, something has to change. Like, we have to do something. And I've definitely found that, you know, giving myself the space and time to heal, being less present for everybody else, just not answering shit, kind of going AWOL. I'm available when I need to be available, and I've put energetic boundaries in place for everything else. My like auto email reply is my best friend. Doing all of that, along with making sure that I'm getting like sunshine every day, you know, drinking more water, trying to eat more vegetables, and getting my like dietary habits back on track. But also, you know, taking a break from a substance that doesn't really serve my gut health. It doesn't really serve my mental health. It's just not really helping me at all. So highly encourage you to take a break from alcohol if that's something you have not chosen to do for yourself, because worst thing that happens is you take a break for a month and you're like, okay, cool. Like, I learned something about myself. But giving yourself the gift of not having it for a while is major. All right, guys, I love you. if you are in a place right now where your mental health is complete trash and you're really struggling, I know that telling you right now to reach out to a friend is probably not going to serve you, because maybe you're in a space where you just haven't felt good for a while and you don't know what to do about it, and you don't know that something's wrong, but you know that something's not right. So maybe that step for you is to call a friend and just to schedule going to lunch, or maybe it's to reach out to a 1-800 number. I will include some of them in the description for this episode as well. Whatever it is that feels like it's going to work for you, and it feels like it's going to be a step for you, and it feels like maybe it's just a little light peeking behind the window that you're letting into your life right now, I encourage you to take that. I encourage you to reach out. I encourage you to know that you are not alone, that I love you. I am so glad that you are here. You matter. You are a huge part of this community. Whether or not you think that you are or not, I see your names, and seeing you guys as a part of the community, seeing you answer on stories, seeing you tell me about TV shows you're watching, all of that makes a huge difference in my day. I think sometimes we think that people who have these big numbers on the other side, that like it doesn't matter when you get a DM or you get a text or you get tagged in something, but like we see it, and it makes it feel like all of the hard work and all of the negative days and all of the days that we feel like it's not working, that it's worth it. And I just want you to know that I see you and that I'm so grateful that you're here. And now I have to give you the other spills. If you have not reviewed the podcast, please do so on iTunes, because it helps us boost and get other people to see us. If you want to hang out with me on Instagram, I am at What Sabby Said. I do weekly like motivational emails, so if you guys want to sign up for those, and it's a good way to like get an idea of what all content has been floating around. So if you don't like to spend a lot of time on social media, you tend to miss things, you tend to forget things, it's a great way to just kind of get a little boost in your week that goes directly to your email inbox. It's a great way for me to communicate with you, and it means you can take all the time you need away from all of the other platforms. I would say take time away from TikTok, but I don't really upload on TikTok all that much. But new content is coming to YouTube, and yeah, I hope that this episode helped you. I hope that if nothing else, it helps you understand in a new way, and that wherever you're at, you know that you are not alone and you're so very loved. I love you guys. It is a good day to have a good day, and I hope you all have a beautiful day wherever you are. Bye, friends.